there are a few wealth killers that drain your budget the most. If you can get rid of them, you will be able to save a fortune. If you're ready, give this video a thumbs up and let's start with the first one. Number 1. A car. If you have ever owned a car, you probably know how expensive it is to have a car. In fact, a lot of people who drive don't know exactly how much their car costs. The average monthly payment on a new car is around $600 in 2020, but that's far from true cost of owning a car. And that's back in 2020. It is far more than that since there is a shortage of chips and high inflation. And that's just your monthly payment without taking into account insurance, gas, and especially maintenance. What I also realized when I got my first car was how often I began to drive. I started driving everywhere, even when it was unnecessary. Gas is not cheap, especially now, and being stuck in the traffic every day can cost a fortune. But if you have a family, of course, owning a car makes sense, especially when public transport is not an option. But if you're single, for God's sake, save that money and invest it. You will thank me later. Number 2. Bad habits. Take a look at how much people spend on alcohol, for example. A fortune. $20 here or $30 there don't seem like much. But if you add it up over the course of a month, it will add up. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, Americans spend about 1% of their gross annual income on alcohol. For the average household, that is around $600 a year or $6,000 in 10 years, or a whopping $22,600 over a 40-year period. That doesn't seem much, but don't be fooled by this number. It takes into account all Americans, including those who don't drink or those who drink like once or twice a year. So if you only take into account those who drink regularly, that number would be much higher. A few $100s a month is normal for a regular drinker. The same goes for smoking, gambling, and other bad habits. The average cost of a pack of a cigarette is around $6 to $7, which means a pack-a-day habit sets you back $188 per month, or $2,292 per year. These numbers might not tighten you, but if you also account the opportunity cost, you will probably get rid of these habits immediately. If you throw that $2,292 every year into an index fund with a 7% return, with the power of compound interest, you can expect to have more than $365,000 in 40 years. Add to that the medical bills that you will get as a result of your bad habits, and you might as well go bankrupt. Number 3. Spending money on impressing people. Back when I was in school, my self-esteem was really low because I was doing poorly in school. But as social creatures, we want to be respected by the people around us, want to be valued because we have so many insecurities. And often, when we don't know how to solve these insecurities, we spend money to show everyone that we're as good as them. Why do you think people buy Rolex watches? Let's be honest, a Rolex watch is literally solving the exact same problem, which is telling the time. But even Rolex holders often use their phones to take a look at the time. But people still spend dozens of thousands of dollars on them because they have successfully branded themselves as a luxury brand that is worn by famous and successful people. So we buy them to send a message to people around us. Look guys, I make a lot of money. I can afford a Rolex. Most people buy that kind of a watch to impress people, which is not a problem if you can easily afford that. But if you can barely afford a Mercedes and still decide to buy it, you have just thrown yourself into a huge financial problem. Number 4. Paying high interest rates. Credit cards are great. It is probably the best way to build your credit score and maintain it. It is extremely important because it will help you to get loans and lower interest rates. But here's when things get terrible. When you use a credit card to pay for things you cannot afford, what ends up happening is that you will not be able to cover your credit card debt at the end of the month, and the interest starts rolling. Have you ever considered how high credit card interests are? They could go as high as 20 or 30%. The interest on your mortgage would seem like peanuts in front of credit card rates. That might not seem like a big deal, but 41% of credit card users reported that they're failing to pay their bills on time, and that's what these banks are counting on. They want you to forget. No wonder why total credit card debts have risen to almost $1 trillion nationally. So don't you ever get a credit card if you can't control your spending habits, especially if you have some really bad habits. Number 5. Chasing women. What is certain about life is that there will always be women around you who will attract you, and if you can't control yourself, you're screwed. The world is filled with them. But what is also certain is that your time and resources are also limited. Even if you have $100 million, it is easy to spend that money on women in a glimpse of an eye. What is more important than money is that time. The time you could be spending building your business, side hustle, or whatever that will generate real wealth. Unless you learn how to control your urge to chase women, you will never reach financial independence, because there will always be women on whom you will waste whatever savings you have saved. These are just 5 out of many wealth killers, but they are probably the top. That's it for today. Thanks for watching, and until the next one.